Yo, disciple, what's up? My name is Samplifire, and today I'm back again for another breakdown of a track. The new track is called Berserker, and it's coming out, sorry, on Disciple Alliance 6. It's probably out now, so there's probably a link in the description right now. And the idea today is to break down the track, go on the intro, on the drop, and show you guys how I did that, why I did that, and hopefully you can get some idea of how it works. So first thing, let's listen to the track. All right, so this is Berserker. So maybe the first thing we could do is to we could talk about the drop maybe, and after that, after we kind of look at the drop and the main unique points of the drop, we could talk about the intro and the whole idea. But before, I just want to say that the idea of this track in particular was to do a bridge between like Viking music or like Norse music, like from up there in like Sweden, like Viking lands, right? So I did a little bit of research on YouTube, found some samples I could use, and literally I tried to get a mood of my track before I even started. So maybe that's the main thing about this track. It's not very technical, it's not very impressive when it comes to the track itself, but I think the most important was to spend more time researching about the tracks and actually making the track. So that when I started making the track, I already had all the samples and the key and everything I needed to work. I wasn't stuck at some points. So while I was doing this research, I found out that they use a lot of chants and shouts, like whoa, 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 stuff like that. War drums, which is obvious, and other instruments like some old harps and stuff like that. I could just play some harp I found here. I resampled that, put it back to 150 BPM, found out it's in D, I think. And that was the first part, the first part of my track was to select what was the theme. And I think that's the theme of the intro and pretty much the track here. This instrument. And this is how my drop starts, I need to find it. Yeah. I took a cut of that first element I have in the intro and put it at the beginning of the drop here. Oops, sidechain. And then back to the dubstep. Another, kind of unique stuff I did on this track, and I think that's the main thing about this track when it comes to the drop, is to replace the quarter notes or layer the quarter notes with some chants. I don't know if that's how you say it, but like wow, wow, wow. Obviously it's processed, it's delayed a little bit, very distorted, EQ'd, but you can still recognize the war chants, right? Another kind of unique take on this one was to replace the standard sub we have in dubstep, like the sine wave type sub, with the Reese bass, and I kept most of it. I kept the high frequencies, mid-range, low, so that it feels kind of dirty and messy, and it's on purpose. I didn't make that track to be clean. I wasn't aiming for the typical clean dubstep track. I was going for something different and something that clicks with Viking, so maybe a bit more guttural, a bit more deep, and I thought the Reese bass was perfect for that. So if I build from the Reese bass, let's start with the Reese bass here. I'll just loop that, and as I go, I'll add more and more elements so you can see how I build my tracks. So my bass line is here in D. I know my track's in D because my intro is in D. I know I want something slow and like a slow pace, very dark. So I'm going for that even in the Reese bass, with the intention of going kind of deep. Sidechain, sorry, every time. Okay, then kick and snare. Some simple top drums. Layers. This is some layers from the virtual route sample pack and mode step sample pack, sorry. A bit more resonance. And I pitched it in D. Well, I mean, it's not very important, but sometimes it's interesting to layer like white noisy claps with resonant snares to get a note, kind of a note resonating in your drums as well. You can do that by stretching and finding the key by ear or with a pitcher, or you can do that with a pitch shifter, or you have different options, but at the end of the day, it's about finding the key. I also have like a sort of resonance here. Not very useful, but yeah, it's here. Okay, let's keep building. More crash. Like, it's messy. So I kept it. Boom, there we go. Oh yeah, I forgot. There is some war drums here. War chants, sorry, here. Very filtered, but still works, Then on top of the kick, I wanted to have some sort of like tom drum. So that's what I used, and it's sidechain and pitch in D. more chance. More layer, I don't know what that is, but let's see. I think it's a clap layer. This is not used. This is not even used. Most of it is just previous stuff I didn't even use. Then you have the offbeat synths here. From my sample pack on Splice right now called Power Pack Volume 1. You can just type in Samplifire on Splice, you'll find it. That one too. And then finally the big chance that was kind of missing here. And then at some point you have some fills and just like unique appearance. This is from my sample pack in collaboration with Murda, aka Tug, and I'm Good. So the sample pack is Tug and Good sample pack if you want to check it out too. So yeah, all together. And call and response with the ARP from the beginning and some chants and stuff. Oops. I also have some layer like growly type layers here. Same, you can get them on the Tug and Good sample pack. It's using a granulizer from FL Studio, which is a great way to sort of stretch samples and stuff like that. So then, yeah, so after we passed the first 8 bars, we have another replica or mirror of the first 8 bars, which is very similar, but the main groove on the sub is different. It's not a Reese bass anymore. It's some sort of, how do you call that? Offbeat plucks, which are also available on my sample pack. I literally use them. I'm not putting that to sell it or anything. It's literally what I used in my in the sub here, with the same layers. So if I play everything. And on top of that, the only difference is that I have this flute from the intro that's being played on top. You know, always reminding us that it's a Viking type track or drop or whatever. I mean, I hope it is. Yeah. So when it comes to mixdown or sound design here, I can't show much. I could show the Reese afterwards, but it's mostly samples. Like, it's actually fully sampled. Even the Reese bass I made for the track is resampled here. The drums were used in previous tracks. The bass's layers, except from the chants, are from the sample pack. So yeah, I didn't do the sound design here. I like to separate sound design sessions with like actual arrangement and making the track. So then in FL Studio you have your playlist here, and then everything goes to the mixer at the end. But on my mixer here, I do the same routing I do in most of my tracks. On my master, I would have just a clipper doing the work, and on top of that I have a bit of an EQing here, cutting the side in the sub frequencies. For those who don't know what side is, it's everything that's not mono. So mono is only the stuff played in the center, and when it's not mono, it's side as opposed to mono. Not to confuse with stereo. Stereo is both side and mono. Sorry, mid and side equals stereo, and side equal stereo minus mid. Anyway, it's nothing too important. I just cut the stereo in low frequency, that's all. And imaging, which is changing the stereo on each band, low, mid, and high. So you can see I reduced a bit of the stereo here. So yeah, then the main two, groups I would say are, the main group is here. It's the bass group, all bass groups, and everything highlighted here goes to the bass group, except from this one for some reason. And on this bass group, I have a Maximus compression thing. If you want to make kind of the same, you can go for Clear Master here. Then I have this plugin, super useful plugin, MSED, which is separating the mid and the side gain. Again, like I did in the master, but this time it's on the full spectrum. And I'm just boosting the mono a little bit. A bit of OTT movement here, some extra stuff. Yeah. And an EQ. So you see, it's not too complex. Then, if you take it a step back, you look for example here on my chants, it's already resampled. I have an EQ, distortion, and more more side. And then each of the basses on my track have their own mixer channel. So yeah, I could go on, but I don't think there is something pretty special here about that. Maybe the Reese bass. Let's take that one, for instance. Let's go here. Hopefully we can play some. Yeah. Okay, so the Reese bass is made from Harmor, and that's the only sound design I did on this track. So there you go. You have your patch here. There's a lot of pitch thickness, as they call it, which is just detuning to create the boom, 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 and Reese bass sound. That's how you do the Reese bass. You have two different signals, two times the same signal played at a slightly different pitch, called detuning, and it gives you this phasing, like boom, 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 boom. It's just sometimes they clash, sometimes they go hand in hand. So the volume after that is either twice louder, like 2 times louder, or completely cancelled in time. So it goes like that. It's a wave. And the more detune you have, the more pitch difference you have, the faster the movement, That's why when I go higher on the pitch, it sounds, like that, super fast. Anyway, so you can make this type of sound in any VST. You just take the same signal, detune it, distort it. You can have some extra filter movement if you want to be fancy, compression, and I think on this one, disperser. Yeah, you see 2 dispersers which are not active anymore. But I think I had one like that, and yeah, one lower or something. And that's how I made it. Okay. Okay, after that we have another section after the bridge here. Bit more dubstep-ish here, meaning more basses, layered and stuff like that. Starting with this one, which is again from my sample pack. It's called Bass One Shot Multiple Shots F. There you go. More layers. And the response here, as a call-in response, is a sustainy bass, screech bass, or long boy bass, whatever you call it. Layered with my flute. So you see, it's almost sounding wrong, but in a way it works too, you know. At least to me it worked. It sounds a bit off, a bit like broken, and that's because I pitched it down 12 semitones. Oh no, yes, did I? I don't know. No, 7 maybe? Yes, 7 semitones down. Why? I don't remember, but it works fine. Some offbeat synths, I think the same. Yeah. And this thing, which is not active. And the Reese bass. Again. Oops, one sec. I'm just trying to see if I'm forgetting anything. Yeah, I have this, which was made from Mysteria. It is a contact bank from Native Instruments. Pretty cool. And you can go on an XY axis between different sounds. So you can start with like a, you know, you have different clusters of sound you can play with. So it's used in cinematic world or like soundtracks, but you can use it for your intros and layer and stuff like that. More chants. And, you know, together. Okay, and then before I forget, my fills are reused from my Slender remix out on Never Say Die Black Label. It's just like fills I made in Harmor for this previous track, but the track was in D sharp, I think, and 150, so I just pitched it down 1 semitone to go to D in 150 as well. And yeah. Just to me worked here as a fill. Yeah. The screech goes back to the central note D. Just like 1-2 flow with everything else. And this thing too. Okay, just a riser. And the chance on the kick is not the same. It's not this one anymore, I think. It's lower. So yeah, when I'm doing my track, what you should remember here is that it's important to find room for in the mixdown, in the context of the mixdown. So don't put everything in the same frequency spectrum. Not everything at the same volume and stuff like that, but also in the context of the track. And what I mean by that is the idea you had. So instead of layering the quarter note or whatever with a typical screech, you might maybe want to do it with a flute that remembers the intro and maybe distorts the flute. It's going to work fine. Or instead of putting another bass that's completely different on your call-in response, you can use an ARP from the intro again, and you create more relationship between the intro and the drop, and you make your track stand out more. You become more unique, and I don't know, it just creates more emotions, I think. And it doesn't have to be always the most impressive sound design too. Sometimes it's fine to use samples and acoustic samples. As long as you have a good groove, a solid bass line, I think that's fine. Okay, so then after that, we have this breakdown section. I don't think there is many drums here. It's just a kick in every 4 bar, sorry. But let's start with the Reese bass again, like I did before. I can show the sound design on that though. I think it's 0, yeah. Again, you see Reese bass here twice. I mean, I'm playing 2 times the same waveform, which is not much width here, which means the 2 voices are pretty much centered and slightly detuned. That creates this kind of messy bass line. Without that, you know. And then what makes that bass line works is the amount of distortion I applied here and compression. You know, without the distortion and the filters, it works, you know, technically, but it's missing something. So I think the first thing I did was to add distortion. Again, kind of standard. Then I filtered the distortion and recompress afterwards. Okay, and then I added some more filter pre-distortion, especially the peak here to create higher harmonics every time. And finally, a comps filter, which is really, really messy. It's a lot of comp filter, and that creates atonal resonances. But basically just makes things messier as opposed to cleaner. And yeah, on top of that, we have that. So obviously the bass line was supposed to follow the ARP I found. And then you can have, no, everything is actually off here, okay. Flute, not even that thing. Okay, it's not even playing, is it? Oh, it's a reverb sound. Oh yeah, I have some delayed growls here from my sample pack as well. Just creating a lot of textures. Nice delay at the end. I mean, to me it sounds nice. Long delay, I love doing that on the vocals. Increasing the volume, sorry, and slightly changing the time, the delay timing. Yes. So you kind of end how you started, but on a more like low tone. Yeah, so I think that's it. Also, I love doing that sort of pulse here. Also available on my sample pack. It's a 8th note pluck in D with dissonance, because there is a D note and a D sharp, I believe, or a C sharp. some extra resonances to back up the flute here. Even more. I tried this one before, it didn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, I think so. I think that's it. So there you go. You have a vision or an explanation on that track, I guess. Let me know if you have any questions or any remark, or if you want to see anything more advanced or anything in the comments. Make sure to check out Disciple Alliance 6 out soon everywhere. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. Like and subscribe and everything.